So for those who have mastered the medium of film, they know that the opening scene, the first 5 to 10 minutes, are debatably the most important 5 to 10 minutes of the film. That opening scene should hook you. From that first scene, you should be saying, okay, I don't know what is going to happen in this movie, but I'm here for it. It sets the stage for your whole journey. I'd be willing to bet that any movie that you consider to be one of your favorite movies of all time has an amazing opening scene. Something that just catches you immediately. When an opening scene is done right, it accomplishes one of three things. It establishes character, it establishes tone, or it establishes the world. And in this video, we're going to go through an example of each one. For establishing character, we're going to look at No Country for Old Men. This movie opens up with a monologue from Tommy Lee Jones over these large, vast landscape shots over West Texas. And it talks about one of the main themes of the film, which is, the fear and anxiety that older generations have towards the younger ones because they don't understand them anymore. After that monologue, we have one of the most impactful character introductions maybe ever put on screen. If this scene doesn't get you excited for what you're about to see, then I don't know what will. There are so many little character intricacies that are shown here. The way that Anton slips the handcuffs underneath his feet as if he's done it 1,000 times. Just the close-up of his eyes, and you can see his evil and brutish nature. And there's something really small that happens that I think counts for a lot. And after the deputy accepts his fate and dies, we see Anton let out a sigh. And this is a sigh of release. Almost like after this kill, Anton has gotten his fix. And as we come to find out more about this character, the more that becomes true. This scene shows us pretty much everything we need to know about this character in just under a minute. And right after it, we go, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm gonna find out. And from that point on, you're locked into this movie. For establishing tone, I want to talk about Apocalypse Now. So for those of you who know this movie, know that this is probably one of the most iconic introductions, opening scenes to a film of all time. We see our main character, Benjamin Willard, who's played by the late great Martin Sheen, in this visual blender of chaos and hysteria that was the Vietnam War. We see the rainforest, we see helicopters, we see fire, we see ancient architecture, and we see alcohol. And we see Captain Willard laid out in his bedroom, clearly drunk. We also hear The End playing by the Doors, which is debatably the most important part because it cues us into really the tone and the feel, but also the time period, also the kind of things that the characters and the soldiers at the time were listening to, which helps us learn a lot about them. All of these things play into the tone of the film. As an audience member, we get the feel for what this movie is going to feel like. It's going to be disastrous, it's going to be chaotic, it's going to be hectic, it's going to be manic, it's going to be scary. Francis Ford Coppola takes the time to be like, hey guys, this is what's coming. This is what this movie's going to feel like. And the tone of this scene carries throughout the film. So for establishing the world, we're going to talk about the opening scene for There Will Be Blood. So There Will Be Blood, which is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, is debatably one of the best films of the 21st century. So in the opening scene, we have Daniel Day-Lewis playing Daniel Plainview. And in this scene, what we do is we're establishing Daniel's world, our main character's world. We see the vast landscapes contrasted with the claustrophobia of oil mining. From a practical standpoint, we establish the world by doing a few things. We establish the location, which is in the middle of nowhere, probably somewhere in the western part of the country, right? We establish the time over a large landscape shot of Daniel alone, and it tells us that it takes place in the 1800s. But that's not really what I mean or what Paul Thomas Anderson means with establishing the world. What we're doing in this scene is we are establishing Daniel's world, metaphorically, and that is a world of crippling loneliness. And he will remain this way throughout the film and till the end of his life, until his greed fully consumes him. He's doing this task out in the countryside by himself. Surely cannot be a one-man job. For the rest of the film, we know exactly what Daniel's world is going to look like, practically and metaphorically, and we want to find out how he navigates it. So in conclusion, we have gone over 3 different kinds of opening scenes. Opening scenes that establish character, establish tone, and establish the world. The truth is, however, every one of these opening scenes establishes all 3 of these things. As stated, they have a focus, but they all overlap. No Country for Old Men establishes character, but it also establishes the world of West Texas and the violent and brutal tone of the film. Apocalypse Now establishes tone, but it also establishes the manic character of Captain Willard and the world that is Vietnam. There Will Be Blood establishes the world, but also establishes the character of Daniel Plainview and the tone of loneliness that we see throughout the film, and how that greed overcomes our character. If you can achieve one of these three techniques, you're going to be in a good place. But if you have all three, then you really have something special. You're going to have something that glues your audience to the seat and makes them say, this is going to be a great movie.
Beautiful friend, this is the end. My